Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nemeka Onyeka Obiariri. My heart goes out to the very poor in Nigeria and those who are ignorant and who do not understand the depth of the wrath in the land. Bible says that my people perish for lack of knowledge. One of the surest ways to deliver a nation or a society from poverty, from ignorance, from misery, from decadence is through quality learning, education, and knowledge. Go out there and look at history. Today, the top 10 and the 10 most industrialized nations of the world, the nations that have the highest human development index, the nations that have the highest standard of living, the nations that have long life expectancy, are those top nations whose literacy level is at an average of 98%. Just go through the records and you will see. Go through the records. You will see that the nations that are the top 10 at the lowest bottom rung of the human development index. The highly poor, impoverished, and indebted nations are nations that have high illiteracy level, low literacy level. Afghanistan, Yemen, Nigeria, and the rest of them. So you will see clear there's a direct correlation between knowledge, between education, and wealth, and the prosperity and human development, high human development index of a country. The higher the literacy level, the higher the prosperity, the higher the productivity, the higher the decency and sanity in such societies. So that is why you see most developing economies that moved from third world to first world did so through the education part. Look at Singapore. As at 1965, Singapore was way below Nigeria by every empirical parameters. By every human development index, Singapore was below Nigeria in the rung of nations. And today, Singapore had elevated from third world country to first world country, while Nigeria today has degraded and regressed to being the poverty capital of the whole world and one of the most terrorized country, if not the most terrorized country in Africa. Why? Because we have refused to pursue the path of knowledge and education as a critical way and path to deliver our people from poverty, from misery, from ignorance. Today in Nigeria, we have over 20 million kids out of school. The number was 10 million in 2015 when the APC government of Muhammadu Buhari took over power. Today, that number is over 20 million. And they don't even care. Just look at a nation like Nigeria. 15 billion naira that they promised that they were going to use to provide student loan, not even grant, for over 6 million students, Nigerians in tertiary institution. They just suspended it. This is the same country that over the last 8 months squandered 167 billion naira on less than 469 people, adults, former governors, wealthy people in the National Assembly. They first of all started with 70 billion naira relocation allowance, as if all of them are homeless, when most of them have houses in Abuja, houses they bought with some of the loose they've made, occupying other positions since 1999. 70 billion given to men who do not need it. 40 billion was given to them to buy SUVs. 57 billion was given to them to do palliative that entered the pockets of most of them. Today we have a presidency where people barb their hair with 78 million and where they spend billions on food annually. We have a presidency where we spend tens of billions of naira maintaining bogus presidential fleet, and yet we could not spare 15 billion naira as student loan for the impoverished kids in Nigeria. It is such a very pathetic situation in a country with 133 million multi-dimensional poor people, in a country with extreme poor people of over 103 million, in a country that has a population of 197 million people who cannot afford 3 times meal a day. We cannot spare 15 billion. Look at South Africa. 2024 budget of South Africa. I take out time. I spend hours every day reviewing most of this things. And my heart bleeds. My heart goes out to the mass of poor Nigerians, to the mass of ignorant Nigerians who do not know that the only time these people in power remember ethnicity and religion is when they want to divide them. But when it comes to loot and stealing and sharing, they don't remember ethnicity. They don't remember. They are always united when they want to share and loot. It is only when they want to divide the ignorant people, when they want to divide the poor, that they will remember they are this, they are that. South Africa 2024 budget, $125 billion, 2.37 trillion rand. Do you know how much they budgeted for education? $25.8 billion. They budgeted 20% of their budget. They appropriated 20% of their budget for education. I do know, interestingly, if you look at Times university ranking, of the top 10 universities in Africa, 8 are situated in South Africa. The remaining 2 are in Egypt. Yet, despite the fact that education standard, the quality of education in South Africa is way far ahead of that which we have in Nigeria, South Africa still, out of a national budget of $125 billion. This, we're talking about 60 million people in South Africa. They budgeted $25.8 billion for the Culture and Education Center, Culture and Learning. In Nigeria, you know how much we budgeted for education? $933 million, 1.5 trillion naira. And that 1.5 trillion naira, most of them are actually recurrent expenditure. There is no way, if South Africa, that is far ahead of us, could budget $25.8 billion, why could Nigeria not budget something more than that? You know, it is so shameful. There is no way, looking at our literacy level, looking at our position, that we couldn't have budgeted at least 40% of our appropriated expenditures towards education and the health sector. The only state in Nigeria that provided 40% of its projected appropriated expenditure to education and health is Abia State. Dr. Alex Oti, out of the 587 billion naira appropriated expenditure for 2024, he made a provision of 40% for education and health. Enugu State did good too in terms of education, same with Delta State. Anambra State, that is governed by a professor, budgeted education per capita of only 6,000 naira. That was a state that P2B took from number 28 to number 1 when he was governor through deliberate funding of that sector. A professor only budgeted 7,000 naira per capita. You know, it's so unfortunate, so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate that we don't understand what we are doing to ourselves. We don't understand what we are doing to ourselves in Nigeria. Look at Singapore. Singapore budgeted for education. Singapore budgeted $9 billion for education. Singapore is already a first world country. Singapore, population of 5 million people, 5.6 million people, on a land mass of 751 square miles, budgeted $9.3 billion for education. Nigeria, population that is 70% youthful, we could not provide 40% of our expenditure. So let me tell you, for us to actually deliver this nation, we must critically fund education and health. There should be an emergency plan to invest on a minimum at least $25 billion at the federal level annually for education. And then for the states, in fact, there should be a law. The laws should be amended. The constitution should be amended in such a way that compulsorily education and health must attract 40% allocation every year for the next 10 years. It's so unfortunate that most of us will not yet realize what we are doing to ourselves. The only way we can deliver this country, the only way we can restore the glory of this nation, is for us to fund education to the minimum UNESCO standard. God have mercy on us. Amen.